The clatter of coins still rings in my ears, though I'm sitting at my kitchen table now, where the faint smell of lavender polish mingles with the aroma of yesterday's toast. I won a video poker run today, a tiny victory that felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. But my chair, the one I've always settled into by the window, isn't where it belongs. My daughter-in-law, Veronica, has taken it, rearranging the room as if she could stake claim to more than furniture. George fusses quietly beside me, brushing crumbs from the table, his eyes flicking between me and the empty space, his calm masking the tension we both feel. Then there's Rosa, my new neighbour, who knocks lightly and offers a cushion and a gentle smile. And I feel it, a small shift, like the first breeze before a coming storm. Have you ever had a place you thought was entirely yours, suddenly questioned, even stolen, by someone you trusted, or thought you did? Stay with me, and you'll see how a small chair, quiet acts of courage, and an unexpected friend can restore not just a room, but a sense of dignity I thought I'd lost. I woke that Saturday morning to the smell of George's coffee, strong and just shy of bitter, the way he'd brewed it for 47 years. The kitchen window let in pale March light, and I stood at the counter in my robe, staring at the little crack in the tile near the sink. How long had that been there? A year? 2? George padded in behind me, setting a hand on my shoulder. "You're quiet this morning." I shrugged, forcing a smile. "Just thinking. About yesterday." I didn't need to answer. He knew. We'd had dinner with our son Matt and his wife Veronica the night before. Nothing dramatic, just a small disagreement over Thanksgiving plans. Veronica had suggestions, lots of them, the kind that felt less like ideas and more like edicts. I'd smiled and nodded and pushed my mashed potatoes around my plate, while George changed the subject twice. "She means well," George said gently, reading my silence. "I know." I sipped my coffee. It was too hot, but I drank it anyway. "I know she does. But knowing someone means well doesn't stop the sting when they treat you like an afterthought in your own plans, does it?" George squeezed my shoulder. "You still going to the casino?" I turned to face him. "You think I shouldn't?" "I think you should do whatever makes you happy." His eyes crinkled at the corners, the way they always did when he was trying to reassure me. "Just be careful. Take your phone." I always take my phone. "And don't spend more than you budgeted." I laughed. Actually laughed. "George, I've been doing this every week for 3 years. I think I know the drill." He kissed my forehead. "I know you do. I just worry." The casino was a 15-minute drive, tucked between a strip mall and an old movie theater that had been converted into a church. I parked in my usual spot near the back entrance and sat for a bullshit moment, hands on the wheel, breathing in the quiet. This was mine. This ritual, nobody else's. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and cologne, and something vaguely mechanical, like pennies and possibilities. The carpet was that particular shade of burgundy that hides stains, and the slot machines chimed and buzzed in their endless symphony. I loved it. Not for the gambling, really, but for the feeling of stepping into a world where I wasn't Eleanor Hargrove, retired librarian, widow's friend, Matt's mother. I was just me, a woman with $20 in her purse and an hour to kill. I waved to Marlene behind the coffee counter. She knew my order, decaf, splash of cream, and had it ready before I reached the register. "Good luck today, Ellie," she said, sliding the cup across. "Thanks, hun." I carried my coffee past the rows of slot machines, past the poker tables where 3 men sat smoking cigars, past the electronic roulette wheel that nobody ever seemed to play. My spot was in the corner, third machine from the wall. Video poker. 5-card draw. Simple, predictable, mine. I settled onto the padded stool, set my coffee on the little shelf beside the screen, and fed a 20 into the machine. The credit counter climbed to 100. My hands trembled just slightly as I pressed the deal button. Do you ever get that feeling? That tiny electric thrill when something ordinary suddenly feels like it might turn into something more? I did. Right then. My heart kicked just a little faster as the cards appeared on the screen. The first hand was nothing, a pair of 4s. I held them, drew 3 new cards, and ended up with 2 pair. Small win. The credits ticked up by 5. I played 3 more hands, slow and methodical, the way I always did. 1 loss, 2 small wins. The coffee steamed beside me, untouched. Marlene's radio played something country and low from across the room, then the 5th hand dealt. I stared at the screen. 3 queens, right there, bright and bold. Hearts, diamonds, spades. My thumb hovered over the hold buttons. I pressed them carefully, deliberately, marking the 3 queens to keep. My pulse thumped in my ears. Come on, I whispered, just to myself, just to the machine. I hit draw. The screen flickered. 2 cards replaced the discards. 4 queens. I blinked, read it again. 4 queens, grinning up at me like old friends I'd forgotten I had. The machine erupted. Lights flashed red and gold, spinning in circles around the screen. The speakers blared a tinny fanfare, trumpets and drums that probably sounded grand to someone, somewhere. The credit counter spun upward so fast I couldn't track the numbers. People turned to look. I heard Marlene gasp from the coffee stand, and I just sat there, frozen, hands pressed flat against my thighs. Oh my God, I said. Then louder. Oh my God. The counter stopped. $12,400. 12,000. My hands flew to my mouth. I laughed. A sharp, breathless sound that didn't feel like it came from me. My eyes blurred. Was I crying? I was crying. Happy tears. The kind that feel like releasing something you didn't know you were holding. Marlene rushed over, clapping her hands. Ellie, you did it! I didn't do anything. You won, honey. Look at that. A casino attendant appeared, clipboard in hand, smiling professionally. Congratulations, Mom. We'll need to verify and process the payout. Can I see your ID? I fumbled in my purse, hands shaking so badly I dropped my wallet twice. The attendant was patient, kind, walking me through the paperwork while the machine kept flashing behind us like it was celebrating all on its own. $12,000. I could fix the crack in the kitchen tile. Replace the living room curtains that had been sun-faded for 3 years. Buy George that recliner he'd been eyeing but refused to purchase because the old one still works fine. And the grandkids, Matt's 2 boys, I could get them something nice for their birthdays. Maybe take them to that science museum in the city they'd been begging to visit. The thought made me smile so wide my cheeks hurt. I called George. He answered on the 2nd ring. Ellie, everything okay? I won, I said, voice cracking. George, I won. Silence. Then, won what? Video poker. $12,000. Another beat of silence. Then I heard him laugh, deep and disbelieving and warm. You're kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm sitting here with the attendant right now. They're processing it. 12,000, Ellie, that's... I'm coming. Stay right there. I'm coming. He hung up before I could tell him he didn't need to rush. But 15 minutes later, there he was, weaving through the slot machines in his old windbreaker and khakis, eyes scanning the room until they found me. His face broke into the widest grin I'd seen in months. "There she is," he said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like soap and aftershave. "My lucky lady," I laughed into his shoulder. "It was just cards, George. Just dumb luck." He pulled back, holding my face in both hands. "No, not dumb. You've been playing every week for 3 years. You earned this." Did I, though? It felt like a gift I hadn't asked for. The attendant returned with a check, crisp and official, my name printed across the front. George whistled low. "What do we do with it?" I asked. He squeezed my hand. "Whatever you want, Ellie. Whatever makes you happy." We drove home with the windows down, spring air rushing through the car. George kept glancing at me, grinning like a kid. I clutched my purse in my lap, the check folded carefully inside my wallet. When we pulled into the driveway, Veronica's silver SUV was already parked there. My stomach tightened. "She's early," George murmured. We'd invited Matt and Veronica for Sunday dinner, days away still. But here she was, standing on our front porch in crisp white jeans and a navy blazer, arms crossed, waiting. "Mum! Dad!" she waved, smile bright and sharp. "Surprise visit. Hope that's okay." George shot me a look. I forced a smile. "Of course. Come in." Inside, Veronica kissed my cheek, too quickly, too efficiently, and set her designer handbag on the kitchen counter. Matt's stuck at the office, so I thought I'd pop by. Catch up. "That's nice," I said, though it didn't feel nice. It felt intrusive. She glanced at George, then at me. "You two look flushed. Were you out?" "Just the casino," George said easily. "Ellie had a good run." Veronica's eyebrows lifted. "Oh, how good?" I hesitated. Why did I hesitate? It was my win, my money. But George, bless him, didn't catch my reluctance. $12,000. Video poker. Veronica's mouth fell open. Then she laughed, loud, theatrical. 12,000? Mum, that's incredible. She crossed the room and hugged me, all warmth and enthusiasm. It should have felt good. It didn't. "Where's the check?" she asked, pulling back. "In my purse." "Can I see?" I retrieved it, handed it over. Veronica studied it like she was appraising a gemstone. "This is amazing," she said slowly. "You know what? This could really help with the boys' private school tuition. Matt and I have been stretched thin and—" "Wait," I said. "What?" She looked up, blinking innocently. "I'm just saying, family helps family, right? And the boys' education is an investment in their future. You'd want that for them, wouldn't you?" My chest tightened. Of course I want what's best for them. But I haven't even decided. "Well, we should talk about it," Veronica said brightly. She set the check on the counter, patting it like it was already decided. "No rush, but it's worth considering." George stepped forward. "Veronica, that's Ellie's money. She can spend it however she likes." Veronica's smile didn't waver. "Of course. I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just offering perspective." She moved past me into the living room, and I heard her shifting things. I followed. My chair, the olive green recliner I'd sat in every evening for 15 years, was being dragged toward the corner. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Rearranging," Veronica said, huffing slightly as she pushed. "This setup is so cramped. If we move this back here, It opens up the whole room, see? But that's my chair. You can still sit in it, Mum. It's just in a better spot. I like it where it was. Veronica straightened, brushing her hands together. Trust me, this looks so much better. I stood there, staring at my chair shoved into the corner, half hidden behind the bookshelf. My throat felt tight. George stepped beside me. Veronica, maybe we should leave things as they were. She laughed lightly. Dad, it's just furniture. Don't be so rigid. Rigid. She called George rigid. I opened my mouth, closed it. What could I say that wouldn't sound petty? It's my house. It's my chair. I wanted to scream both, but the words tangled in my chest. Veronica was already moving toward the kitchen. I'm starving. Mind if I make a sandwich? She didn't wait for an answer. George touched my elbow. Ellie, it's fine, I whispered. But it wasn't fine. I looked at my chair, tucked away like something outgrown. At the check on the counter, already half claimed in Veronica's mind. At my own kitchen, where she was opening cabinets without asking. And for the first time in my own home, I felt like a guest. The next morning, I woke before George. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that hums with leftover tension. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the check. $12,000, my name printed across the top in official black letters. Veronica's voice echoed in my head. Family helps family, right? I pulled out my old planner, the leather-bound one I'd used for years to track groceries, doctor appointments, birthdays. I flipped to a blank page and wrote the date. Then, in neat script, video poker winnings, $12,000. Earned at Lucky Star Casino, 3:47 p.m. Simple. Factual. I photocopied the check on our ancient printer, tucked the original back in my purse, and slid the copy into the planner. Then I wrote a second entry. Veronica moved living room furniture without asking. My chair relocated to corner behind bookshelf. It felt silly at first, like I was making a federal case out of a rearranged chair. But then I remembered the way she'd patted the check, the way she'd called George rigid, the way she'd opened my cabinets like they were hers. And I kept writing. That afternoon, I moved my chair back. Not dramatically, not defiantly. I simply waited until Veronica left. Then George and I dragged it to its original spot in front of the window. There, George said, dusting his hands. Better? Much. I sat down, testing the familiar dip in the cushion, the angle of light through the glass. My chest loosened. George kissed the top of my head. She means well, you know. I know, I said. But did she? Veronica came back 2 days later, unannounced again. This time, she brought groceries. I thought I'd stock your fridge, she said, breezing past me into the kitchen. You two don't eat enough vegetables. She unpacked kale, quinoa, almond milk, things we'd never asked for. I thanked her, smiled, watched her arrange everything on our shelves, shifting aside the cottage cheese and deli ham we actually ate. Then she noticed the living room. Oh, she said, stopping mid-step. You moved the chair back. I did. But it looked so much better in the corner. I prefer it here. Veronica's smile tightened. Just a flicker, but I saw it. Well, it's your house. She said it like a concession, like she was doing me a favor by acknowledging the obvious. I didn't argue, I just nodded. But later, after she left, I wrote it down. Veronica returned, restocked fridge without asking, commented on chair placement, tone passive-aggressive. You see what I was doing? I wasn't fighting. I was observing, documenting, building a quiet record of every small intrusion, every subtle claim to authority in my own home. Because I'd learned something over 72 years. People who push boundaries do it in increments. They test you. They see how much you'll tolerate before you push back. And Veronica was testing me. By the end of the week, my planner had 5 entries. Small things, mostly. Comments about the decor, suggestions about George's medications, a remark about how we should think seriously about downsizing. You don't need all this space, she'd said, gesturing around our modest living room. And the equity could really help Matt and me with the boys' future. I'd smiled, nodded, said nothing, but I wrote it down. George caught me one evening, bent over the planner at the kitchen table. "What's that?" he asked. "Just keeping track," I said. He frowned, leaning closer. "Of what?" "Veronica's visits, things she says, things she moves." George's expression shifted, concern mixed with confusion. "Ellie, why?" I looked up at him. "Because someone needs to remember what's actually happening here." He didn't understand. Not yet. But I did. Veronica was laying groundwork, testing boundaries, claiming space. And I wasn't going to let her erase me from my own life. Not without a fight. A quiet one, maybe. A patient one. But a fight, nonetheless. I ran into Rosa Martinez 3 days later, literally. I stepped out of my apartment carrying a bag of recycling, and we collided in the hallway. "Oh!" She grabbed my elbow, steadying me. "Mrs. Hargrove, I'm so sorry." "My fault," I said, though it wasn't. Wasn't watching where I was going. Rosa smiled, warm, genuine. She had one of those faces that made you want to trust her, even though we'd only exchanged pleasantries since she'd moved in last spring. "Are you all right?" "Fine. Just distracted." She tilted her head slightly, studying me. "You sure?" And for some reason, maybe because her eyes were kind, or because I was tired of pretending everything was fine, I hesitated. That hesitation must have been answer enough. "You know," Rosa said gently, "I was just about to make tea. Would you like to come in for a minute?" I should have said no, should have smiled politely and gone about my business. But instead, I heard myself say, "Actually, that sounds nice." Rosa's apartment was smaller than ours, same layout, fewer rooms, but it felt lighter somehow. Plants lined the windowsill, photos covered the fridge, a bright yellow throw blanket draped over the couch. She handed me a mug of chamomile and sat across from me at her tiny kitchen table. "So," she said, "what's on your mind?" I wrapped my hands around the mug, feeling the warmth seep into my palms. "It's nothing, really, just family things." "Family things are rarely nothing." I glanced up. Rosa's expression was patient, waiting but not pushing. So I told her. Not everything, but enough. The casino winnings, Veronica's comments, the furniture rearranging, the subtle takeover of my own space. Rosa listened without interrupting. When I finished, she nodded slowly. "That sounds exhausting," she said. "It's silly. I know it's silly. It's not." 2 words, simple, but they cracked something open inside me. "She's my daughter-in-law," I said quietly. "I should be grateful she cares enough to help." Helping is different from controlling. I blinked. Listen," Rosa said, leaning forward. "I don't know Veronica. Maybe she means well. But your home is your home, You get to decide where your chair goes." She made it sound so obvious, so simple. Why didn't it feel simple? The next morning, Rosa knocked on my door. "Hi," she said, holding a small cushion, floral print, soft looking. "I bought this ages ago and never used it. Thought it might fit your chair by the window." I stared at it. "Rosa, you didn't have to." "I know, but I wanted to." She stepped inside, glanced around the living room, then frowned slightly. "Didn't you say your chair was by the window?" "It was. Veronica moved it again yesterday." Rosa's jaw tightened, just for a second. Then she smiled. "Well, let's fix that." Before I could protest, she'd crossed the room and grabbed one end of the chair. "Come on, show me where it goes." And we moved it. Back to the window, back to the spot where the afternoon light hit just right. Rosa placed the cushion on the seat, stepped back, and nodded. "Perfect." I sat down, testing it. The cushion was exactly the right thickness, the view exactly as I remembered. "Thank you," I said. Rosa squeezed my shoulder. "Any time." Veronica arrived an hour later. She walked in without knocking, just used the spare key Matt had given her, and froze when she saw the living room. "You moved it again." "I did." Her gaze shifted to the cushion. "That's new." "A gift. From Rosa next door." Veronica's expression hardened. "Rosa. She's very thoughtful." "I'm sure she is." Veronica crossed her arms. "Ellie, I don't understand why you keep fighting me on this. The room flows better with the chair in the corner. I like it by the window." "But it's my chair, Veronica." The words came out calm, steady, but underneath, my heart hammered. Veronica stared at me. For the first time since this whole mess started, she looked genuinely caught off guard. "Fine," she said finally, "if that's how you want it." She turned and walked into the kitchen, her heels clicking sharply against the tile. I stayed in my chair, hands folded in my lap, pulse racing. Through the wall, I heard Rosa's television murmur softly, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel quite so alone. The flowers arrived on Tuesday. Rosa knocked, 3 light taps, and when I opened the door, she was holding a small glass vase filled with daisies. "Farmer's market," she said. "Got 2 bunches. Figured you might like one." I took the vase, feeling the cool glass against my palms. "Rosa, you really don't have to keep—" "I know, but they brighten up a room, don't they?" She was right. I set them on the kitchen table, and suddenly the whole space felt different. Less like a battlefield, more like home. By Wednesday, we'd fallen into a rhythm. Rosa would stop by mid-morning, always with something small, a bag of tea, a magazine, once even a packet of birdseed for the feeder outside my window. We'd chat while I tidied up, and somehow, during those conversations, things got done. The bookshelf I'd been meaning to reorganize? Rosa helped me shift the heavier volumes, the drawer full of scattered receipts. She brought over a small accordion folder and suggested I sort them by date. "Just in case," she said lightly. I didn't ask what she meant, but I started keeping better records. The casino receipt, the household bills, even a little notebook where I jotted down when furniture got moved and by whom. It felt silly at first, like I was preparing for a trial that would never happen. But it also felt strategic, intentional, and that mattered. Thursday afternoon, Veronica stopped by while Rosa and I were rearranging the photographs on the mantel. She stood in the doorway, keys still in hand, and her gaze swept over the room, the flowers, the newly organized bookshelf, Rosa holding a framed picture of Matt as a toddler. "What's going on here?" Veronica asked. "Just tidying up," I said. "With help, I see." Rosa smiled politely. "Just being neighborly." Veronica's jaw tightened. She crossed the room and set her purse down on the counter with more force than necessary. "Ellie, can I talk to you for a minute? Alone?" Rosa glanced at me. I gave her a small nod. "I'll see you tomorrow," Rosa said quietly, slipping past Veronica and out the door. The silence that followed felt thick. Veronica turned to face me. "What's going on with her?" "She's a friend. A friend who's suddenly very involved in your life." I folded my arms. "She's been kind." "I'm sure she has. But Ellie, you need to be careful. You don't know her that well." "I know her well enough." Veronica exhaled sharply. "Look, I'm just saying, outside interference can complicate things. Family things. Matt and I are trying to help you, but if someone else is influencing your decisions, no one's influencing me." "Are you sure? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like this woman is helping me feel at home in my own apartment." The words came out sharper than I intended. Veronica blinked. "That's not fair," she said. "I've been trying to make this place easier for you, more efficient." "I didn't ask for easier. I asked for it to stay mine." Veronica's expression shifted. Hurt, maybe, or irritation. Hard to tell. "Fine. If that's how you feel, I'll back off." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then paused. "But I'm telling Matt about this. He should know what's going on." The door closed behind her. I stood in the middle of my living room, heart pounding, hands trembling slightly. The flowers on the table caught the afternoon light, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel like I was losing ground. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table with my notebook open. "Small, consistent acts," I wrote. Then I underlined it twice. Rosa had shown me something I'd forgotten, that power didn't always come from big confrontations or dramatic speeches. Sometimes it came from knowing where your chair belonged, from keeping records, from having someone in your corner who didn't need anything from you except the chance to be kind. I closed the notebook and looked around my apartment. It still wasn't perfect. Veronica would probably call Matt tonight, spin the story her way, make it sound like I was being influenced or manipulated. But I had proof now. I had routines. I had Rosa. And I had myself, steady, patient, and finally starting to push back. The next morning, Rosa knocked at 9:30 sharp, our new unspoken appointment time. She carried 2 paper cups of coffee and a small bag of pastries from the bakery down the street. The kind with the flaky crust and just enough cinnamon to smell like childhood. "Thought we could use a treat," she said. I let her in, and we settled at the kitchen table. The flowers from earlier in the week were still fresh, their petals just starting to curl at the edges. Rosa took a sip of her coffee, then glanced toward the living room. "Your chair's back where it belongs." "For now." "That's a start." I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. "How did you do it? After your husband passed, how did you keep people from taking over?" She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I didn't at first. My sister-in-law thought she knew what was best for me. Kept showing up with casseroles and opinions, rearranging my kitchen cabinets because it would be easier this way." "What did you do?" I thanked her for the casseroles. Then I moved the cabinets back every single time she left. I laughed, a real surprised laugh that caught me off guard. Every time. Eventually she got the message, or got tired. Either way, my kitchen stayed mine. It was such a simple thing, but hearing someone else say it, someone who understood, made it feel possible. Veronica called Matt last night, I said quietly. Told him I was being influenced. Rosa raised an eyebrow. By me? Apparently. And what did Matt say? He hasn't called yet. Rosa leaned back in her chair. He will. And when he does, you tell him the truth, that you're making your own choices, that I'm just a friend who brings coffee. What if he doesn't believe me? Then you show him your notebook. I blinked. You knew about that? Saw it on the counter the other day. Figured you were keeping track. She grinned. Smart move. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the kind that only happens when someone really hears you. Rosa picked at her pastry. You know what helped me the most? Remembering that I'd survived harder things, lost a husband, raised kids through tight years, worked 2 jobs when the bills piled up. She looked at me. You've done hard things too, Ellie. This is just another one. I thought about George, the years of quiet partnership, the small disagreements we'd navigated without drama. I thought about raising Matt, the sleepless nights and careful budgets and endless patience. I used to be better at standing my ground, I said. You still are. You're just out of practice. That afternoon, I moved my chair back to its original spot by the window, the one with the good light and the view of the courtyard. I didn't make a fuss about it, just shifted it a few feet, adjusted the cushion, and sat down with a book. When Veronica stopped by an hour later, her eyes went straight to the chair. You moved it back, she said. I like the light here. Her jaw tightened, just slightly. It blocks the walkway. Not really, there's plenty of room. She stared at the chair for a long moment, then set her purse on the counter. Matt said he'd call you tonight. Good. I've been meaning to talk to him. Veronica's gaze flicked to me, then away. She opened the fridge, rearranged a few containers, and closed it again. Rosa seems nice, she said carefully. She is. How well do you know her? Well enough. Veronica exhaled through her nose. I'm just worried, Ellie. You're in a vulnerable position, and people can take advantage. I'm not vulnerable. The words came out steady, clear, not angry, just true. Veronica paused, her hand still on the fridge handle. For a second, something shifted in her expression, surprise maybe, or respect. Hard to say. She nodded slowly. Okay. Then she grabbed her purse and left. I stayed in my chair by the window, the book open in my lap, sunlight warming my shoulders. And I realized something. I hadn't needed to raise my voice or make a scene. I just needed to stay put. The phone call came 2 days after breakfast. Veronica's voice was bright, the tone that always made me pause. Ellie, let's host Matt's birthday dinner at your place this weekend. Your apartment has that lovely table. I set down my coffee. This weekend? Saturday night. Matt loves the idea. I'll handle the planning. You won't lift a finger. The shift from suggestion to decision, wrapped in consideration. How many people? Just 8 or 9. Matt, the kids, my sister and her husband. Maybe Rosa. I glanced around my small living room, George's bookshelf, decades of quiet evenings. 8 or 9 people would fill every inch. I'm not sure my apartment is set up for that many. It's perfect. I measured when I was there last week. If we move a few things around. She measured. Veronica, a restaurant might be more comfortable. Matt specifically said he'd love a home-cooked meal. I thought you'd want to do this for him. The guilt, carefully placed. Let me think about it. I'll need to know by tonight so I can start shopping tomorrow. She hung up. I sat with the phone in my lap, anger simmering. Rosa knocked 20 minutes later with muffins. She saw my face and set them down. What happened? I told her everything. Rosa listened, expression calm. What do you want to do? I want to say no, but then I'm ruining Matt's birthday. Or say yes, on your terms. Host the dinner, but you decide how. The menu, seating, timing, all of it. She said she'd handle the planning. Thank her for the offer, then handle it yourself. Politely, firmly. You're the hostess, Ellie, not her. The idea settled, solid and surprising. I don't know if I can. You can. I'll help. I called Veronica that evening. I'm happy to host Matt's birthday, but I'd like to keep it simple. Just immediate family, 6 people. A pause. My sister was looking forward to coming. I'm sure. But my table seats 6 comfortably. We can do something bigger later at your place. Longer pause. Okay, 6 people. The menu? I'll handle it. I know what Matt likes. You don't have to do all the work. I want to. It's his birthday. I could hear her recalculating. Well, I can bring dessert. That would be lovely. We said goodbye. My hands shook slightly. Rosa grinned from the kitchen table. Perfect. She's going to push back. Probably, but you set the boundaries. Now hold them. I looked around my apartment, my space, my rules. For the first time in weeks, it felt like mine. Next morning, Veronica arrived with a grocery list and binder. I made a timeline for Saturday. If we prep Friday night, I've got it covered. She blinked. I'm just helping. I appreciate it, but I've hosted plenty of dinners. I know how my kitchen works. Her smile tightened. I thought, Rosa's helping with prep. We've planned the menu. Veronica's gaze flicked to the doorway, where Rosa appeared with groceries. Oh, I see. Rosa smiled warmly. Morning, Veronica. We're making Matt's favorite. Pot roast with roasted potatoes. Sound good? Veronica's jaw worked. That sounds nice. Great. We'll start this afternoon. Veronica glanced between us, expression unreadable. She picked up her binder and purse. Let me know if you need anything. We will. She left without another word. Rosa unpacked vegetables. She's not happy. No, I agreed. She's not. That afternoon, I started a notebook. Rosa suggested it after Veronica left. Write down everything, times, dates, conversations, what she said, what you said back. It's not paranoia, it's documentation. I pulled out an old spiral-bound notebook from my desk drawer, the kind I'd used for grocery lists and gardening notes. The first page felt oddly official. Tuesday, 2:15 p.m. Veronica called to request hosting Matt's birthday dinner. Suggested 8 to 9 guests without asking my capacity or preference first. I paused, pen hovering. Was I being petty? Rosa glanced over my shoulder. Keep going. Facts, only, no emotion. Stated she'd already measured my apartment during a previous visit without asking permission. That detail stung more when I wrote it down. Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. Veronica arrived with pre-made timeline and menu plan. attempted to take over dinner preparations, despite my stated preference to handle hosting myself. George walked in from his morning errands, groceries in hand. He saw the notebook and raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" "A record of household decisions and boundaries." He set down the bags slowly. "You're documenting Veronica?" "I'm documenting facts, in case I need them." His expression shifted, surprise, then something close to admiration. "Smart." Rosa smiled. "It's evidence-based diplomacy." "Evidence-based what?" "Diplomacy. You state your case with facts, not feelings at songs. Harder to argue with a written record." George pulled out a chair and sat beside me. "Show me." I walked him through the entries. He listened, nodding occasionally. "She measured your apartment without asking?" "Apparently." "That's..." He trailed off, jaw tight. "That's just overstepping." "Yeah?" I added another line. George confirmed he had not given Veronica permission to measure or assess apartment layout for events. He watched me write. "You're really doing this?" "I have to. Otherwise it's just my word against hers. Matt might not like it. Matt deserves to know the truth, not her version of it." George reached for my hand. His palm was warm, familiar. "You're not backing down?" "Not this time." Over the next 2 days, I kept the notebook close. Thursday morning, Veronica texted, "Can I drop by this afternoon to discuss seating arrangements?" I replied, "Saturday's seating is already planned. Thank you." She arrived anyway at 3 p.m. I noted the time immediately. "Ellie, I know you said you had it handled, but I brought some centerpiece ideas. The table's set. I appreciate the thought." She held up a bag from an expensive home goods store. "Just look. It won't take a minute." I stayed in the doorway. "Veronica, I've got prep work this afternoon. I'll see you Saturday." Her smile froze. "You're really not going to let me help?" I said I'd handle it. I meant it. She set the bag down on my doorstep. "Fine, but don't blame me if things feel rushed." She left. I wrote it down. Thursday, 3 p.m. Veronica arrived unannounced, despite text confirmation that Saturday plans were complete. Attempted to override seating and decor decisions. Left centerpiece items on doorstep after being declined entry. George saw the bag later and frowned. "She just left this here?" "Yep." "What are you going to do with it?" I picked it up, glanced inside. Expensive candles, silk napkins, nice things. Things meant to make me feel inadequate. "Return it," with a polite note thanking her for the thought. George's grin was slow and genuine. "You're really getting the hang of this." Friday evening, Rosa and I prepped the pot roast. Potatoes peeled, carrots, chopped, the apartment filling with the smell of garlic and thyme. George sat at the kitchen table, ostensibly reading the paper, but I caught him watching me. "What?" "Nothing. Just, you seem different." "Different how?" "Confident. Like you know exactly what you're doing." I wiped my hands on a towel. "I do know what I'm doing. I've hosted dinners for 40 years. That's not what I mean." Rosa glanced between us, smiling. George folded his paper. "You're standing up for yourself. Not loud, not angry, just firm. I'm proud of you, Ellie." The words settled warm in my chest. "I'm proud of me too," I admitted. Rosa raised her coffee mug. "To evidence-based diplomacy." George clinked his water glass against it. "To not backing down." I joined them, notebook sitting open on the counter, pages filled with careful, steady facts. Saturday would come. Veronica would test boundaries again. But this time, I'd be ready. Saturday morning arrived clear and cool. I set the table at 10, checking each detail twice. Linen napkins folded neatly beside each plate. The centerpiece was simple. Daisies and greenery Rosa had helped me arrange. Nothing fancy, just honest and welcoming. George emerged in his good shirt, tie already knotted. "You ready for this?" "As ready as I'll ever be." The doorbell rang at 11 sharp. Matt and Veronica. He carried wine. She carried that determined smile I'd learned to recognize as warning. "Mom, the place looks great." Matt hugged me warmly. Veronica surveyed the table. Her eyes landed on the daisies. "Oh, you went with simple." "I like simple." "Of course. It's just for a family gathering," I thought. "The table's set, Veronica." She moved toward my chair, the one by the window, the one I'd reclaimed over the past weeks. "I'll sit here. The light's better for photos." My stomach tightened. "Actually, that's my seat." "We can rearrange for today, can't we?" George stepped forward. "Ellie's seat stays Ellie's seat." "George, it's just a chair. It's her chair, in her home." The doorbell rang again, Rosa arriving with a covered dish. I let her in, grateful for the interruption. "Rosa, you remember Matt, and this is Veronica." Rosa smiled warmly. "Lovely to meet you properly." Veronica's gaze sharpened. "You're the neighbor who's been helping." "Just being neighborly." We settled at the table, me in my chair, Veronica forced opposite. The pot roast came out perfect. Potatoes tender, carrots glazed, the whole apartment smelling like Sunday dinners from decades past. Conversation stayed light at first. Matt's work, the weather, neighborhood news. Then Veronica set down her fork. "Ellie, have you thought about what you'll do with the casino winnings?" The table went quiet. "I have plans for them, yes." Because Matt and I were discussing college funds for the kids, and it seemed like such a generous, "The money's mine, Veronica." "Of course. I'm just saying, family support is important. I'm still generous, on my own terms." Her smile thinned. "I'm not sure you're thinking clearly. At your age, financial decisions can be... At my age," my voice stayed calm. "What does my age have to do with how I spend money I won?" "I'm concerned you might be influenced by outside parties." Her gaze flicked to Rosa. Matt shifted uncomfortably. "Veronica, maybe this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time. Your mother's being taken advantage of." I stood, walked to the counter, picked up my notebook. I set it on the table beside my plate. "Taken advantage of how?" Veronica stared. "What's that?" "Documentation of household decisions, boundaries, and conversations over the past 2 weeks." "You've been writing things down?" "Facts, dates, times." I opened to the first page. "March 4th, you measured my apartment without permission. March 6th, you claimed my winnings should go toward family needs. March 8th, you're keeping a record of our family conversations." "I'm keeping a record of decisions affecting my home and finances." "March 10th, you attempted to override my seating arrangements. Yesterday, you arrived unannounced after I'd confirmed plans were complete." Veronica's face flushed. "This is ridiculous. I've been trying to help. By taking my chair, questioning my decisions, suggesting I'm not capable of managing my own money." "I never said that." "You implied it, repeatedly. George's hand found mine under the table. Veronica looked to Matt. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? Matt's jaw worked. He looked at me, then at Veronica, then the notebook. Mom, is all that true? The dates and times? Every word. He was quiet for a long moment. Veronica, maybe you have been pushing too hard. Her mouth fell open. Matt, she's right. This is her home, her money. We should have asked, not assumed. Veronica's hands trembled. I was trying to be helpful, to be part of the family. You are part of the family, I said quietly. But being family doesn't mean erasing boundaries. Rosa spoke for the first time. Respect and help aren't the same as control. Veronica's eyes glistened. She stood abruptly. I need some air. She walked to the door and stepped into the hallway. Matt looked at me, conflicted. I closed the notebook. Nobody moved. Matt followed his wife into the hallway. Their voices carried through the thin door, hers sharp, his low and steady. George squeezed my hand. You did good. Rosa began clearing plates. I stopped her. Sit with us a minute. She settled back down. The three of us listened to the muffled argument outside. What happens now? George asked. I flipped to a fresh page in my notebook. We make sure this sticks. Documentation continues, small, consistent boundaries. And Matt needs to observe the pattern himself, not just hear about it secondhand. Rosa nodded. You want him to witness it? Observe it naturally. We continue as before. Rosa helps with small things, flowers, chair adjustments. If Veronica pushes back, Matt sees it happen organically. And if she doesn't push back, Rosa asked, then we've already won. Either way, the pattern breaks. The door opened. Matt stepped inside alone, face drawn. She's waiting in the car, he said quietly. I owe you an apology, Mom. I closed the notebook. Sit down, honey. He did, looking younger than his 46 years. Same hunched shoulders as when he broke a window at 7. I should have noticed sooner, he said. This is your home. I let her treat you like you needed managing. George cleared his throat. She's your wife. You wanted to trust her judgment. But Mum's my mother, and she's sharper than I've given her credit for. He gestured at the notebook. That's clever, keeping records. Rosa's idea, actually. Matt looked at Rosa properly. Thank you for helping her. Rosa's smile was gentle. Your mother needed a friend, not a manager. I appreciate it. I'll be more present going forward. Actual visits, not just phone calls. That'd be nice, I said. But this isn't about choosing sides. Veronica's still your wife. And you're still my mother, who deserves respect in her own home. The apartment felt lighter. Like tension I hadn't noticed was draining away. So what's the plan? Matt asked. I looked at George, then Rosa. Clear expectations, consistent boundaries, no big confrontations unless necessary. And if she pushes again? You'll see it happen, because you're paying attention now. Matt nodded. Fair enough. Keep that notebook updated. George chuckled. Our Ellie, the record keeper. Someone has to be. I stood. Now help me clean up before everything gets cold. They moved into action. George scraping plates, Matt wrapping leftovers, Rosa at the sink. Through the window, I saw Veronica in their car, phone pressed to her ear. Matt caught me looking. She'll come around. Might take time. And if she doesn't, we'll deal with that together. As a family, with boundaries. I nodded. Good enough. Rosa touched my elbow. You want me tomorrow? Water the plants? That'd be lovely. Same time? Same time. Such a small thing, watering plants, maintaining routine, but it felt like planting a flag. This is my space. These are my rhythms. Matt kissed my cheek. Love you, Mum. Love you too, honey. The door closed. George, Rosa, and I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by clean dishes and pot roast smell. Well, George said, that went better than expected. Rosa dried her hands. First step's always hardest. What's the second step? I asked. Consistency, making sure today wasn't a one-time thing. I looked at my chair by the window, back where it belonged, afternoon light streaming through. Then we keep going, I said, one day at a time. 3 days later, Rosa knocked while I was sorting laundry. Busy this afternoon? She asked. Just the usual. Why? I was thinking, invite a few neighbors over, nothing fancy. Coffee and cookies. I set down the pillowcase. Here, your place has the best light, and you've got that lovely table by the window. She glanced around. Unless you'd rather not. My first instinct was to say no. Hosting meant planning, cleaning, worrying whether everything looked right. But then I remembered Veronica's face when Matt told her this was my home. What time? Rosa's smile bloomed. 2 o'clock? I'll bring the cookies. You just brew coffee. I can manage that. I know you can. She left me standing in the living room, looking at my space with fresh eyes. The chair sat exactly where I'd placed it. George's crossword magazine on the side table. My Afghan folded over the armrest. My home. My rhythm. I got to work. By 1:45, the apartment smelled like fresh coffee and lemon polish. I'd set out my mother's china cups. The delicate ones with blue flowers are usually kept wrapped in tissue paper. Have you ever noticed how certain objects carry whole histories? Each time I unwrapped those cups, I remembered her hands pouring tea, her careful way of handling beautiful things. Rosa arrived first with a tin of homemade cookies. These are perfect, I said, arranging them on a plate. The knock came at 2 sharp. Mrs. Chen from 3B, carrying a small potted orchid. For your table, she said in her precise English. Very pretty here. Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski followed, he with his walker, she with her loud laugh and questions about everything. Ellie, when did you get such lovely cups? Mrs. Kowalski settled herself on the sofa. They were my mother's. Seemed like the right time to use them. Too often we save things for special occasions that never come, Mrs. Chen observed. Better to enjoy them now. George emerged from the bedroom, surprised by the gathering. Didn't know we were entertaining. Rosa's idea, I said. Impromptu neighborly coffee. He grinned. I'll get extra chairs. The conversation flowed easily. Mrs. Kowalski's grandson's wedding, Mr. Chen's herb garden on the balcony, Rosa's plans to volunteer at the community center. I poured coffee, offered cookies, felt the comfortable weight of being a host in my own space. The door opened without a knock. Veronica stepped inside, stopping short when she saw the gathering. I didn't realize you had company. Afternoon coffee, I said evenly. Would you like a cup? Her eyes scanned the room, the china, the cookies, the neighbors chatting comfortably. I was looking for Matt's old tax documents. He said they might be in the hall closet. They're in the filing cabinet, bedroom closet, top shelf. I turned back to Mrs. Chen. You were saying about the orchid care? Veronica stood there a moment longer. Rosa offered her the cookie tin. Please, help yourself. I'm fine. She moved toward the bedroom, footsteps deliberate. Mrs. Kowalski whispered loudly, Is that your daughter-in-law? The one who… Hush, her husband cut in. But the damage was done. Everyone knew about Lidtart, Veronica's behavior. Small apartment buildings are like that. Privacy is a polite fiction. Veronica emerged with a manila folder. Found them. Good, I said. Tell Matt hello for me. She left without responding. The door clicked shut. Brief silence. Then Mrs. Kowalski snorted. Well, she's pleasant. Helen, Mr. Kowalski warned. What? I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. She turned to me. Ellie, you're far more patient than I'd be. Takes energy to fight, I said. Sometimes it's better to just keep living your life. Rosa caught my eye across the table. Small smile. More coffee, anyone? I asked. The conversation resumed, but something had shifted. My neighbors had witnessed Veronica walking into my home without knocking, witnessed me maintaining composure and control while she searched my space. They'd seen who held authority here. Mr. Chen raised his cup. To good neighbors and good coffee. We all clinked china carefully. Through the window, I spotted Veronica in the parking lot, phone pressed to her ear, probably calling Matt. Let her. This was my afternoon, my gathering, my home. 2 days later, Matt called to suggest Sunday dinner. Mum, I think we should all sit down together, clear the air. My stomach tightened. That's fine. Dad said there's been some tension with Veronica. I want to hear everyone's side. Everyone's side. As if there were multiple versions of truth. We'll be here, I said. George hung up the extension. You ready for this? I've been ready for weeks. I pulled out the folder I'd assembled, receipts from the casino, my bank deposit slip, photos of my apartment before and after Veronica's rearrangements, a small notebook where I documented each intrusion. Dates, times, exact words when possible. Did I feel petty keeping records? Maybe. But I'd learned something important. Memory isn't enough when someone questions your reality. Rosa stopped by Saturday evening. Matt invited you, I asked. He called this afternoon, said he wanted a neighbor's perspective. She settled into the chair, my chair, back in its rightful spot. Sounds like he's taking this seriously. Or Veronica convinced him I'm losing it and he needs witnesses. Ellie. I know. I sighed. I'm just nervous. You've got the truth on your side. That counts for more than you think. Sunday arrived too quickly. I set the table with care, not my mother's china this time, but the everyday dishes that had served family meals for 40 years. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, comfort food. Matt arrived first, alone. He kissed my cheek. Smells great, Mum. Where's Veronica? Parking. She wanted to take a call first. Of course she did, preparing her strategy. George emerged from the kitchen with iced tea. Son? They shook hands. Such formality between father and son. When had that started? Veronica entered without knocking. Again. Sorry I'm late. We settled around the table. Rosa arrived exactly on time, carrying a small bouquet of daisies. For the table, she said softly. Thank you. I placed them in the center, between the mashed potatoes and the chicken. Matt cleared his throat. So, I know there's been some friction lately. Friction? I kept my voice level. That's one word for it. Veronica dabbed her napkin. I've only tried to help, Eleanor. You and George are getting older, and you thought you'd take over my home. That's not fair. Let her finish, Matt said quietly. I pulled the folder from beside my chair. When I won at the casino 3 weeks ago, my money from my weekly visit, you insisted it should go toward family needs. You moved my furniture without asking. You entered my apartment 7 times in 2 weeks without knocking. I opened the notebook. April 3rd, 10:15 a.m. April 5th, 2:30 p.m. April 7th. You're keeping a diary about me? Veronica's voice rose. That's obsessive. It's documentation. I met her eyes. Because every time I mentioned feeling uncomfortable, you told me I was being oversensitive. George spoke for the first time. She's not oversensitive. I watched you dismiss her concerns repeatedly. George, Veronica started. No. His voice was firm. You treated her like a child in her own home. Matt looked between us. Is this true? I was trying to help, Veronica said. Your mother doesn't always make the best decisions. Like what? I asked. Going to the casino once a week? Arranging my furniture the way I like it? Spending my own money? Rosa spoke quietly. I've watched Eleanor handle her home and finances independently for months. She's organized, thoughtful, and completely capable. Veronica turned on her. You've known her for a few weeks. I'm family. Family doesn't mean ownership, Rosa said. The table went silent. Matt pushed his plate aside. Mum, show me the photos. I slid them across. Before and after shots of my living room, my moved chair, the rearranged kitchen cabinets. He studied them for a long moment. Veronica, he said finally, did you do this without asking? I thought it was better. Did you ask permission? Pause. No. And the casino money? Did you ask permission? Her jaw tightened. I thought, that's the problem. Matt's voice stayed level, but I heard disappointment underneath. You thought you knew better than Mum what she needed in her own home. I was trying to help the family, Veronica said. That money could have gone toward the kids' college fund, or it was Mum's money. Matt looked at me. What did you do with it? Put it in my savings account. Added a little cushion for emergencies. I paused. And bought your daughter that art set she wanted for her birthday. Veronica blinked. You... what? The watercolor set. 68 brushes, 12 paint tubes, 2 sketchbooks. It's in my closet, wrapped and ready. I folded my hands. I was going to surprise her next month. Matt's expression softened. Mum? I don't spend money recklessly, Veronica. I never have. I raised a son, managed a household budget for 50 years, and I still know how to plan. My voice didn't shake. What I won was mine to spend as I saw fit. George reached over and squeezed my hand. Veronica stared at her plate. For once, she had nothing to say. Rosa stood quietly. I should let you talk as a family. No, I said. Please stay. You're part of why I'm sitting here feeling strong enough to have this conversation. She settled back into her chair. Matt cleared his throat. Veronica, I think you owe Mum an apology. Matt, not a sorry you felt that way apology. A real one. The silence stretched. I could almost feel Veronica weighing her options, calculating whether resistance would cost her more than surrender. Finally, she looked at me. I overstepped. I shouldn't have moved your furniture or assumed control of decisions that weren't mine to make. It wasn't warm. It wasn't heartfelt. But it was something. And the money? Matt prompted. That was yours. You earned it. She paused. I'm sorry. I nodded slowly. Thank you. Matt exhaled. Going forward, this is Mom and Dad's home. If you want to help, you ask first. Respect their space, their choices, and their independence. I understand. Do you? I kept my gaze steady. Because this isn't the first time you've assumed you know what's best for me. I'm 72, not 7. I've lived through things you can't imagine, and I've managed just fine. Veronica's cheeks flushed. I hear you. Good. I closed my folder. Then we can move forward. George stood. Let's eat before everything gets cold. We passed dishes in awkward quiet, but gradually conversation trickled back. Small talk about Matt's work, Rosa's garden, George's latest woodworking project. Veronica stayed subdued, answering when spoken to, but offering little else. After dinner, Matt helped clear plates. In the kitchen, he pulled me into a hug. I'm proud of you, Mum. That took guts. I just wanted my chair back. He laughed quietly. It's more than a chair. I know. When everyone left, George and I stood in the doorway, waving goodbye. Rosa paused at the stairs. You did beautifully. We did. I smiled. Thank you for standing with me. Anytime. The apartment felt different when I closed the door. Lighter somehow. My chair sat exactly where it belonged, the daisies Rosa brought still fresh on the table. George wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Feel better? Yeah. I leaned into him. I do. We settled into our usual spots. Him with the crossword, me with my book. Normal, peaceful, mine. The next morning I woke to sunshine streaming through the window. My window, angled exactly how I liked it. Curtains pulled back just enough to let the light touch my reading chair without glaring on the pages. George was already up, humming in the kitchen. The smell of coffee drifted through the apartment, familiar and comforting, stretched, feeling the pleasant ache of a night's good sleep, and padded barefoot to the kitchen. Morning, George said, pouring me a cup. Sleep okay? Better than I have in weeks. He smiled. Figured you might. I carried my coffee to the living room and sank into my chair, running my hand along the armrest. The fabric was worn smooth in spots from decades of use, little threadbare patches that told the story of thousands of evenings spent reading, knitting, thinking. How had I let someone try to take this from me? A soft knock came at the door. Rosa stood in the hallway, holding a small potted plant. Hope I'm not too early. Never, I waved her in. Coffee? Please. George poured her a cup while she settled the plant, a tiny succulent with fat, cheerful leaves, on the windowsill. Thought you could use something low maintenance and resilient. Seemed fitting. I laughed. Are you calling me a cactus? If the spine fits. Her eyes sparkled. We sat together, the three of us, in a silence that felt easy and warm. Outside, the city was waking up. Cars passing, a dog barking somewhere down the block, the distant hum of a lawnmower. You know, I said, I've been thinking about what you said last week, about small acts adding up. Rosa tilted her head. Yeah? I spent so long being polite, being accommodating, trying not to rock the boat. I thought that's what good people did. Kept the peace, made things easier for everyone else. I paused. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that I'm allowed to take up space too. George reached over and squeezed my hand. You taught me that, I told Rosa. Not by lecturing or pushing, just by showing me what it looked like to stand firm without apology. She ducked her head. I just moved a few chairs around. You did more than that. I met her eyes. You reminded me I mattered. Her voice went soft. You reminded me too. After Carlos died, I felt invisible, like I'd become part of the furniture myself. But helping you, it gave me purpose again. We helped each other, I said. George raised his coffee cup. To helping each other. We clinked our mugs together, the ceramic ringing faintly. So what now? Rosa asked. Now that you've reclaimed your throne, I grinned. I sit in it and enjoy the view. That's it? Maybe. I sipped my coffee. Or maybe I start playing video poker again. I did pretty well last time. George groaned. Don't give her ideas. Too late, I winked at Rosa. Want to come with me next week? I could use a lucky charm. Deal, but I'm terrible at cards. Video poker's not really cards. It's more about patience and knowing when to hold your ground. Rosa laughed. Well, you're an expert at that now. The morning stretched out, unhurried and gentle. We talked about everything and nothing. Rosa's plans for her garden, George's crossword troubles, the neighborhood gossip. Eventually, Rosa stood to leave. I should let you two enjoy your Saturday. Come back, any time, I said. Door's always open. I'll hold you to that. After she left, George and I stayed in our chairs, basking in the quiet comfort of our reclaimed space. You did good, Ellie, he said. We did good. He nodded. Yeah, we did. I looked around the apartment, the furniture arranged exactly right, the daisies still bright on the table, my chair positioned perfectly to catch the morning light. Everything in its place. Everything mine. Not because I'd fought for it with fury or force, but because I'd stood steady, kept records, and refused to disappear. That's what dignity looked like, I realized. Not loud declarations or dramatic confrontations, just the quiet, persistent refusal to be erased.